All right. And we are back for another episode. We took a little bit of a break. Just a little bit. Just a little bit of a break. A 2-week break after we started season 2 back again. So y'all will be all right. We just needed to breathe a bit. We just needed to breathe a little bit, deal with some of our triggers internally. And now we are ready, set, go. But before we hop into the amazing guests we have, we wanted to do a little bit more of diving into who we are and basically how we show up in the world. One of the biggest triggers I feel are people who are still trying to figure out themselves, still trying to tap into the genius that is them. So we are going to, in our next 2 episodes, tap into the genius that are your co-hosts. So y'all ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. In my mind, I heard y'all say yes. So, that's what it was.
I'm the audience. I'm the faux audience.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, we did promise to kind of bring everybody in a little bit more and be more intimate and more connected with everyone. That's the whole point of transitioning to video. So I definitely think it's a good idea to just dive a little deeper into who we are and how we show up in the world, like you said. So I think that's the right thing to do at this point.
Absolutely. So we're going to tap into you first, Dani.
Oh, okay. Why not?
Yes. Exactly. Why not? So you have had quite a few exciting life moments that have been happening.
Right. To say the least.
Listen, exciting, informative, explorative. I know that is not a word, but I feel like that's how it should be pronounced.
Okay.
Explorative. Y'all don't think so? I feel like it just should. It's an interesting way to pronounce it, but I feel like that's how you should pronounce it.
Tomato. We know what you mean.
Exactly. But no, and even challenging like changes. So I have seen you, because we've been friends for so long, I've seen you grow through so many different stages and phases of your life. Right. And you are, as you express, a certified reformed mean girl, right?
I didn't think that's what you were going to say after you said certified.
Because you're reformed, but you were so good at it that I didn't even know you were a mean girl. I didn't know. I feel like that deserves a certification. No?
Wait, you're saying you didn't know I was a mean girl?
I didn't know you were a mean girl.
I was a mean girl when we became friends.
But I didn't know because you were so nice to me. Oh,
because I'm not mean to you. Oh, yeah, no, I'm nice to my friends. Yeah, I'm nice to everyone now, but at the time I've always been nice to my friends. I'm a girl's girl when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, but I didn't know that you weren't nice to other people. That was news to me when you said it. When you said it, I was like, girl, no, you are not. Don't talk bad about yourself. And then you were like, no, sis, it's true. And I was like, oh.
And then I'm sure you saw me in action a few times and you're like, oh no, she's serious.
Yeah, just once or twice. After you said it, then it kind of, I was like, let me look for these, these behaviors. And I realized like, damn.
Used to. Yeah, I used to be pretty reckless at the mouth. But in my youth, it's like when I was super young in my teenage years and things like that, I think you learn over time that things like that, it's a self-defense mechanism. A lot of times, most of it is rooted in some kind of insecurity. I want to say I couldn't always pinpoint what that was exactly, but I think any negative behavior is rooted in something either trauma-based or poor conditioning based, poor programming based. We're away for a reason, I don't believe that you just like, I'm definitely more nurture versus nature.
I honestly believe that same thing to a certain point.
Yeah.
I feel like, and maybe it's so funny. Some of my other friends are like, you always straddle the fence. And it's like, it's not that I straddle the fence. It's just that I don't believe things are just black and white. I do believe in areas of gray.
Yeah, of course. And I don't like this idea that like you can only think one thing at a time, or you can only have like
Yeah.
one opinion about something. Like it's okay to think that and that. Like we're multifaceted beings. You can have a
Yeah.
lot of different thoughts and feelings. Like you're allowed to be like upset and happy at the same time, guys. Like it's like if you're not for something, you're against it. Do you feel that now
Mm,
in the culture? It's like you can't
yes.
kind
Yeah.
of be both, or you can't agree with something without being against something else, like and hating it. It's like
Yeah.
I don't like I don't
Yeah.
know. I That's my experience nowadays. I think that is
I
promoting
agree.
cancel culture.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And for me, I kind of live in a duplicitous type of situation. Maybe because I grew up in such a dichotomous type of lifestyle, and I just realized I use two very big words. So I'm going to run that
I'm
back
about
and
to
tell
let
you
me
what they
get my
both mean.
dictionary. Let me get my dictionary because
So, what I mean by duplicitous is I just mean two things in me can exist at the same time, and they both be true. And I
yeah,
get that.
that's all of us. We're all like that. I don't know why we try to convince ourselves that we're not. It's weird.
Because, like I have masculine and feminine, and depending on the situation, one will be a little bit more aggressive than the other.
Oh,
Dep-
dude. Yeah, we're all like that. It's just this weird where we feel like forced into these boxes of trying to, and I also know that groupthink and the need to fit in and to be a part of a
Mhm.
group plays a big part in that feeling
Yeah,
like, but it's just so dangerous and it's so divisive in so many ways. But anyways,
yeah,
I know that the world is promoting that kind of behavior. And so I try to be really conscious of it and like be okay with thinking multiple things at the same
yeah,
time. It's like, I think I'm allowed to do that. Give yourself permission,
yeah.
everyone, to have opinions about multiple things and to feel multiple ways about the same thing. It's all right. It's not weird.
Exactly. It really is. It's okay. And it's okay to say that. Like I can see how one person might be wrong in this arena, but also might be right in this other one. It's how I
Yeah.
run everything through my head. And it can be frustrating. People are just like, oh, well, you need to choose a side. And it's like, it's not that I'm not choosing a side, it's that I'm choosing to see all aspects of it, not just the
Right.
one that makes me feel the best or makes me feel right. I am
Yeah.
choosing to look, even the people who I don't agree with, well, let me see how can I take a look at your side from your point of view, and it makes sense. Like I said, when I say I grew up in sort of a dichotomous situation, what that means is just like two things that are on the polar end of the spectrum.
Mhm.
So I went to a private Christian school, but I also grew up in abject poverty. Those two things are polar opposite ends
Yeah,
of the spectrum. They
for
don't make
sure.
sense. But because I grew up like that and I constantly had to go back and forth, it's allowed me to see things differently. And so when it comes to you saying that you were, a self regarded mean girl, I was just like, oh, this is not possible because she's so amazing to me. But it's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing to see how you've grown. And now you are an actual certified life coach, not just
Not just a certified former mean girl.
exactly. But you're a certified life coach. And I love that because to me, everything is about choice. You
Mhm.
get to choose. It begins and ends with your choice. I don't care what situation you're in, who
Yeah.
and where you were born into. Everything is about choice. So for you,
Yeah.
and kind of brings me to my first question. When it comes to choice, how and why did you choose something different? Because what you were doing was working, was it not? Or was it not working?
So more than life coach, just to clarify, I am certified as a health and life coach. I'm more
Mhm.
so focused on the health and wellness realm of that. I don't really believe that you can fix your life without fixing your health. So, I mean, it's all life related, no matter how you look at it, but it's almost impossible. Like, I want to say it's impossible, but I don't like to say anything's really impossible because I just, I'm sure it's not. But it's very difficult to really have the life that you want if your health, especially your physical and mental health, is not um, at an optimal level. Like
Yeah.
it just makes life that much harder. You can have all the money and all the success, but if your health, I believe it was Steve Jobs that kind of gave a good example, and in his last days, as his health was failing even more,
Mhm.
he spoke a little bit about how, you can have everything, and if you can't buy you can't really buy your health after a certain point,
Yeah.
especially with some situations. But I do believe in having the knowledge and helping people to prevent things rather than get to a
Yeah.
point where you have to cure things, right? So I'm not a
Yeah.
medical doctor. I'm not a doctor of any kind. I'm a certified life and health coach, but I focus more so on health and wellness. I chose this because um, I have been on some kind of a health journey for the better part of a decade.
Yeah.
And whether it was spiritual, and that eventually turns into physical and turns into mental and
Mhm.
all that. And I felt like I didn't know anyone. We know that we've spoken about this before. We both grew up in very religious environments.
Mhm.
And I just didn't feel like I knew anyone that was living the life that I wanted to live.
Ah,
And I
okay. Yeah.
couldn't understand. It's like, we believe in God, we're told all these things, but for some reason, all y'all seem really miserable and unhappy. None of you have the material success that I want. You don't have the inner vibe that
Peace.
I want and the peace. Yeah. And it set me on a journey. I had some traumatic
Yes.
things happen in my late teens, set me on a journey to try to find some answers and to
Okay.
reconnect with my higher self. And through doing that, I realized, whether directly or indirectly, that when after I started kind of doing the work, that I noticed that I was inspiring other people to do the work after they spoke with me. Or I
Yeah.
would find that people would come ask me questions, or like come to me for advice, or feel like I could help for some reason. And not even
Mhm.
like really feeling like I was qualified to do that.
Yeah.
But it would just happen to me all the time. Or I would come across people, complete strangers, and they would just like pour their hearts out to me and just
Yeah.
tell me everything. And I'd just be like, why are you telling me this? Like, why do you feel like
What is
I am the person that needs to know this information about your life?
it?
And it made me start to be more aware that, okay, maybe there's something about
Yeah.
me that draws people to me, and there's something
Mhm.
about me that makes them feel safe and comfortable. So
So igniting something in you was what kinda led you
yeah, just
to it.
kind of noticing that for whatever reason, people feel like I can help them. And that
Okay,
is
okay.
just so incredible to me, and
Heck
such an
yeah.
honor for anyone to feel like you have an answer for them. I mean, that is just the most amazing thing. My favorite thing on earth is human connection. That
Yes.
is the most special thing to me. I don't think there's anything better on earth than connecting, especially deeply, with another human being.
Mhm.
So for me, when I realized that people felt like when they felt like they could connect with me, and then when I
Yeah,
realized that they felt that they needed to connect, and they should connect with me for any reason, I was like,
yeah.
okay, what's that about? So I started
Mhm.
exploring it. And then the funny, weird, and this is like, it's a little woo woo, but it's just the truth. I went to see a psychic. for
I
the
don't
first
judge.
time, for the first time in my life, because I was raised to believe that psychics are like evil. Anyways, I
Me
went to see
too.
it.
I've never seen one because of
I
that
had
reason.
never
I'm
seen
like,
I had
"Oh,
never seen one
no."
before. I'm like, I don't do that. So, anyways, I went to see a psychic, and I'm gonna have some family members listen to this and be like, but
The Antichrist.
it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. But anyways, I went to see a psychic. I was feeling very lost at the time. I had just gotten out of a relationship. I just wasn't feeling like I had a lot of direction. Like I just felt a little all over the place. I had a friend recommend it. She said this person was legit, and I was like,
I wasn't
whatever.
that friend, y'all. I wasn't that
She was
friend.
not. I'm a try it once. If you like it, try it again type of person. So I
And for the
decided.
record, I'm not against it. I just have never tried it.
I
I'm not
I
against it.
it was
How do
interesting.
you
So
how
I
was
went
it?
to her, and she did the cards and all that stuff. And long story short, she pretty much was like, people really value things you have to say. Like she said that to me. She was like, you are an influential person, but I think you need to like discover your purpose. You need to whatever, whatever. And she goes into, it's like an hour reading. So I'm not going to tell you all of it. But she pretty much said that she feels like I should explore doing some kind of coaching or getting into some kind of field where I can help people. She was like, you're a creative person, but you also are a person that is, I like, she felt like I had a higher calling or some kind of a higher
Yeah.
purpose to serve people on a deeper level. And it really resonated
Mm.
with me. And I was like, I do feel that way about myself. But I think what it was I never felt qualified to, like, who am I to like help people or tell anybody whatever. My spiritual
Yeah.
journey is personal, my health journey is personal. I figured out some of it, right? A very small portion of it for myself. Like, who am I to
Yeah.
like, like I'm not a
Share this with others.
psychologist. Yeah, I'm not a doctor. I'm not, so I was just like, so she's like, well, why don't you? I said that to her. I was like, yeah, but I like, who am I to do that? And she was just like, she's like, you don't need it. But she's like, maybe why don't you seek out like a small certification or something like that if you want to feel more worthy
Mm.
type thing. So I was
More
just like,
worthy.
I left there like, okay, like, but it was funny because at the time I was looking at my school that I graduated from, the college I graduated from, FIU. I had actually called them the week before to see if I was able to enroll into what it would take for me to enroll into their master's psychology program.
Oh, wow.
Because I was thinking about going back to school for psychology and then getting like my doctorate and like doing the whole thing. And I
I
actually
remember
did
that
make,
conversation.
yeah, I made the phone call and everything. So it was just weird that when I went to her, that's why I resonated, because I was like, wow, I really was thinking about getting into that kind of field. But it's kind
Mhm.
of like, she was like, you don't need to do all that. She's like, you can get into it and you can do the help that you need to do without spending thousands of dollars and
And
getting a
years.
psychology degree. Yeah. I felt like it was, guidance from a higher power saying, hey, this is the path, but that's not, this is the way, but that's not the path, with the whole going back to like a 4-year college type thing and getting a master's, or it'd be 2 years.
Hold on,
So
you just said something that's really powerful. Can you repeat that? You
which
said, "This
part?
is the way, but that's not the path." Like,
Yeah, that's how I felt.
yo.
Like, this is not the road you go down, but that's where you go. Like when you're driving on a highway and you see a
Yeah.
building and there may be several exits to get to that building. And
Mhm.
sometimes we get off on the wrong exit. And we're like,
Yeah.
damn, I know I'm supposed to get there, but it's taking me a lot longer than I thought it's supposed to take me, right?
Yeah.
Because you got off on the wrong exit. You a little too soon or a little too late. so,
I
so you
love
either
that.
make a U-turn or you're taking the road with all the lights, right? And you have all these stops now because
Yes.
you got off too early, right? So anyways,
Mhm. So
that's
this
how
is
I
the way,
felt.
but that's not the path. This is the
Yeah.
way, but that's not the path. Understanding that there are multiple paths that can still guide you so that you can still follow the way that you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
Just take a different path.
Kind
Ooh.
of like when you say something similar to that, when it comes to business, where you'll say that you're taking a different avenue. You say
Oh,
something like that.
yeah. Plan B is to make plan A work, even if I have to take avenue C.
Same idea, right?
Yeah.
Same concept. Yeah. So it resonated with me, and I immediately just looked into it, and I found a program that I felt was valid, and
Mhm.
I just did it. And it was like a pretty lengthy, it was still lengthier than I wanted it to be. But long story short, I got certified and it
Yeah.
just felt very right. It felt like the perfect fit. Once I started seeing clients, I was like, oh, this is it. Like, it just felt very in line with my purpose. It felt very um, fulfilling. And
Yeah.
I've always done work that made me the money I wanted to make, but I
Mm.
had never done work that was fulfilling on the level that am doing it now.
Ooh, ooh, and you just said something major. Again, sorry, not sorry, but I'm gonna back up a little bit more. So let's talk through that too, because I definitely want to hear like what does it mean? So when you say health and life coach certified, put some respect on your name. Certified
Yes, I
health
did lots of
and
hours of stuff I didn't feel like doing.
listen, that part. Okay. If I studied for it, call me as I say I am. Okay. Okay. so so no. So when you say you were always, or you were able to always find jobs that made you the kind of money you made, I remember when we were both working for the same company, and it always was something magical to me about just the way in which you moved in the world with the confidence that you moved. Like I would always draw close to women who felt really, really great about themselves because I didn't. So it was kind of like for me, monkey see, monkey do. How do they do that? Okay, great. Let me try that too. And it
Right.
wasn't that I was trying to like, copy anyone's life, but I really wanted to tap into how do you embody confidence and just exude it, because you exuded this like love for
Mhm.
yourself and this confidence that I didn't even know how to conjure it up. Like I was like, what do I pour into? How do I? And so the money was always cool. And that always fascinated me too, like how well you managed money. Because we would talk about it and I'd be like, damn, I am really over here straight struggle busting it, you know, making money, but the money not making sense. And so to watch you and how you just moved in the world, but then for you to now say that you weren't fulfilled. Again,
Yeah.
everything is about choice because you can choose to remain as you are. You do not
Yeah.
have to change.
No, you
Nobody has
don't.
to change.
No. No.
But for you, what was that? Whether it's the catalyst or whether it was, an unctioning. I know you said what, assisted you in going to get the certification was, the nudging from the psychic. But what was it from the, hey, I don't have to stay this way? Because there was something before her. Yes, she
Yeah,
expired the
good
certification,
question.
but what was that?
Great question. A car accident.
Oh, wow.
Great question. Yeah, I got into a pretty bad car accident. I want to say maybe 2 years before that.
Mm,
Before I went to see the psychic, I had gotten into a car accident. I was still in the relationship and I was on the highway. It was raining. I got hit, spun around 2 times, faced the other way, got hit again.
mm,
And I was okay. I had like neck trauma and things
mm.
like that, but I was alive. And I remember sitting in the car, after a car accident, everything becomes like really real for a second. I don't know if you've been in car accidents, so I know you know. You, you've
Just a
been in a
few or six. Just,
You've been in a
few or
few.
six or
So
seven.
like that moment after it's done and like you sit there for a second, there's this very strange, if you allow it to be visceral and spiritual moment, if you just kind of sit in it for a second.
Yeah.
And I did that. And at this time in my life, I was vibing really low. I was really unhappy in a lot of different ways. Again, I just didn't feel like I had any guidance. I didn't know what my purpose was. I
Yeah.
wasn't feeling like myself. I don't really believe that you lose yourself, but I did feel lost. I felt like I lost myself in the
Mm,
relationship I was in just what I was doing with my life just didn't feel like in alignment with who I am. And after I sat there and I said, if I died right now, would I be okay with it?
mm. Who? If that's not a sobering conversation with
Ye-
yourself.
Yeah, I was like, what would people say? Like, how would I feel if I was looking back at my life right now and it was over just in this second? Like, it could have literally been because it was that kind of car
Mhm.
accident.
Yeah.
How would I feel and where would I be like, all right, well done, sis.
You
Like
good?
you did the
Yeah.
damn thing on earth. And the answer was no. I didn't like I didn't like my story. I didn't like who I would have died as. Like
Mm.
honestly. And
Bullshit.
yeah, I didn't like the thought of that person being my legacy and my story and what people like would say
Yeah.
about me. Like I didn't like that. And
Yeah.
that the car accident led me to therapy. Started going to
Mhm.
like a therapist.
I
Um
do remember that car accident because you wouldn't
yeah.
drive anymore.
Yeah, I had really
You
bad
were
anxiety.
terrified to drive. I do.
Yeah. So I started seeing a psychologist to help me with the anxiety because I had like crippling. anxiety,
Yes.
especially when it came to driving. And he put me on an interesting path. He told me that I was really blocked up creatively. I'm a
Mm.
creative soul. He said I needed to find an outlet to get creative and to just let it out. He told me a lot of really
Wow.
great things about myself, which I don't think therapists or psychologists, especially in that realm, usually do. But he
Mhm.
was very like he was speaking life into me in a really beautiful way.
Mhm.
And it really, he just, I don't know, it's like he was like, he saw me, and
Wow.
it was really dope. But he went definitely off book and just like talked to me, like spoke to my spirit and was just like, look, this is
Yeah.
who you are. Like, this is what you're capable of. What are you doing?
Like, come back, come back.
And he told me, he was like, you need an outlet. I had told him about my past in singing and not performing and things like that. And he was like, well, why don't you find something that you can just do as a hobby?
Okay.
At some point, my sister tagged me randomly. I hadn't had this conversation with her, but she randomly tagged me in this acting school on Facebook, like an ad for an acting school that was in
Mhm.
Miami. And I was like, I always wanted to be an actress. Why not?
Let's try it.
He was offering a free class, and I went to the free class and I connected with the acting coach. Like, I just fell in love with him
Mm.
as as a
Aw.
person. I was like, who is this person? Like, who are you? I started
Yeah.
taking the acting classes. I work it out of my budget. I was like, I want to do this. And
Yep.
I think that is what actually set me on the path. I believe that man, the
Mm.
acting coach, literally changed the trajectory of my life. Like, he has
Wow.
a spiritual component to the class. He introduced me to my now energy therapist that I see regularly that helps me
Oh,
with that. Like, he
wow.
just like life changing. So
And I too
I
wanna
think that's
tap
what it
into
was.
I love that, and I wanna tap into the fact too, is that you fell in love with his energy without falling in love with him sexually. Because I feel like sometimes
Oh
as women,
yeah.
we don't know how to we think, "Oh my god, I like them, their energy is great, they're this, they're that." And we
Yeah,
think that that
good, yeah.
means sexual,
Yeah, and he is
and
attractive
many times it
physically,
doesn't.
and he is
Yeah.
physically attractive, yeah. Um, I have I've always been able to do that. I don't
Mm.
really know what the science is behind that. I've
I
always
just
been
learned that.
able Okay, yeah, I've always been able to kinda disconnect. I was a girl, as a young girl, as a kid, I always had guy friends that I
Mhm.
loved deeply without really
Yeah.
liking them romantically,
Mhm.
and I know people say, like, "Oh my god, if a guy like, no guy's your friend," like, I hear men say that all the time, like, "Oh, they're just waiting in the wings for
I
you to,
know.
like, have a drunk night and come home and cry, and they can save you." But growing up, I felt like I had genuine male connections and deep
Yeah,
friendships with men that never got sexual or romantic. So
yeah.
I've always been able to do that because I really value male connection
Mhm.
on a deep level. When you can connect with when men and women can really connect without sexuality, it can be so magical and fulfilling, and there's just so many answers that the opposite sex tends to have for you that
Yeah,
you just won't find within your own circle,
yeah.
or
I'll
your own
say
sex, whatever you identify with.
yeah, whatever that piece is. I'll say I definitely had it growing up, but it's something about college that just I don't know what happened. It was all that repression,
College can be a little confusing, a little bit,
just a
little bit.
smidgen. But even
Yeah.
after then, I think well into past my mid-20s, I'll probably say like 26, 27. I finally figured out again, like, yo, sis, you can have, friendships with men and it not be sexual or romantic, and they still be fine
Yeah.
as hell. And you
Yeah,
still
yep.
understand that I'm not supposed to get this or grab this from you, you know?
Yeah, and just being, okay with I think a lot of times, especially as women, or why we might do that, what you're talking about, where we feel like, "Oh, if I like him, there has to be more to it."
Mhm.
I think it's just because we tend to feel like we wanna feel chosen,
Ooh,
and right? Like, there's this innate feeling. I mean, I think Disney
yeah.
teaches us that, and at 4, that, like, there's some guy that's supposed to come find you and pick you and choose you. from all the women in the land, like vibes.
But religion teaches it too, though. You
Religion
know,
teaches it too, yeah.
he who finds a wife finds a good thing. But what
Which I
about the
which I
whole
which I agree with, but
I
it's
do.
just there's this feeling that we
However,
have, and when we befriend a man or we have a man's attention, we automatically think that he should want something more from us. Like, so then
yeah.
we feel like we should give that. Like it's this
Mhm.
weird space that we get into.
Rationalization.
Yeah, where it's just like, well, I like him, he must like me.
Yeah. It's kinda like and I feel like from Disney and mind you, they're now changing that to where, like, even
Mhm.
Raya and the I think the Tiny
The
Dragon or
drag
the
the
Lost Dragon,
dragon? Yeah,
one of the
something with a dragon.
dragons. First of all, great movie. Like, I mean, I
I didn't watch
follow
that one.
oh, listen, me and Naya both, we were in there. We took ourselves on a date. More like I took her on a date because she didn't pay for anything. Naya's my daughter. But we went on a date with each other and we were sitting in there and I loved that they didn't make it so that Raya had to be saved by somebody outside of herself. She was allowed to, not allowed, but it was written into her character to where she could fully trust herself to make smart decisions after she made a bad decision. Like Disney is on their thing
That's
now.
awesome. Okay, I like
Like,
that. Because we are just so taught, especially as women, to seek validation. So that's why I'm saying I think
mhm,
a lot of the feeling like, oh, if I like him, there has to be something more to it, is wanting this
yeah,
validation that he must want to choose me too. Like he just
absolutely.
needs to.
Yeah.
And and also too, wasn't interested in marriage and things like that until like my mid 20s. So
Oh,
I was not the little girl that was like waiting to grow up and get married.
yeah,
I
I
was
can
like, at
understand
like
that.
18, I was like, I'm gonna be just like the rich aunt.
And I was the little girl you talking about. I had planned out my wedding. I'm like, I want 6
Mm-mm.
kids.
Nope.
Now, dear God, unless it's a nanny attached to each one of those children, I'm good, love, and joy.
I was not that girl. I mean, I've always been a girly girl, like what someone would consider, like I love makeup and I love hair and I love fashion and I love
Yeah,
all the
you taught
things.
me. All
Yeah,
the makeup,
I'm all
you
about
taught
that. But
me.
relationship wise, like that just started like being appealing to me like after I had hit 25, when I was like, okay, wait, I think I
Mhm.
do want kids. I think I do want this whole thing. In my early 20s, I was in these streets, honey. Okay. I was like,
And I was right
who,
next to
husband, where?
you.
Husband, who, where, what, huh? You want to marry? Oh, no,
It's a no for me, dog. Nah,
it's a no for me.
I feel like the one piece because there is, and this is of course for those who are heterosexual, for those who aren't, there is still that oh I want to be chosen thing. But one of the greatest things that my therapist did for me when it was right after I had actually gone through a real serious breakup, went to Africa, wrote a book while in Africa. That book literally now is a major moneymaker for me in terms of all the opportunities it's opened.
Yeah.
He and I eventually got back together, and I told him I was
Eating
like, "Yo,
elephants. That's the eating elephants book,
no,
right?
no, this one is the
Which
relationship
one's that?
game. This one's the relationship
Oh,
game.
oh,
I
okay.
wrote
I
it
know.
in
Yeah,
Africa because
I
I
didn't
was
know
so
that.
heartbroken. I was
I
so
didn't know that
heartbroken.
you were in Africa. Because
Yeah.
I just thought eating elephants. Maybe you were inspired by like I don't know, a safari or something.
No, that one was inspired because my grandfather, he's not my blood grandfather, but we were raised and so he was my grandfather. He used to tell me the best way to eat an elephant is a piece at a time. Like
Yeah, I
so many
love
people
that.
they try and gobble up their big vision, big dreams, big everything, and they rush
Yeah.
it all, trying to hurry up and like accomplish it. And it's like, calm down, take it a piece
Yeah,
at a time so you don't choke.
I loved hearing that. I actually use it with my clients.
Oh, yay.
I do, yeah. And I tell them, like, I was like, I have a friend and she taught me about eating elephants. And because like just to kind of give you a little rundown of like what I do, like as far as a program. So I have something
Yes.
called the Take Back Your Health program. And it's a 90
How do you
day
do that?
so it's a 90-day total transformation program.
Ooh.
And
Mhm,
I take you through it's once a week where I meet with a client and we
mhm,
go through like these different
mhm.
sessions. The sessions are about an hour long.
Okay.
And we pretty much, first of all, discover what's happening, right?
Okay.
Most of my clients so far are people that are they think they have a handle or grip, like they feel like they've tried everything, right? Like I
Okay.
tried this diet pill, I tried this tummy tea, I tried this
Mm.
waist trainer, I tried
So you tried all
everything.
the things except for changing. Okay, no
Right.
disrespect to the clients. I'm pretty sure you're awesome
Right.
people.
Right.
Awesome
And they
people.
are amazing. So they've tried it all, right? That's
Okay.
typically what I feel like people that feel like they have some knowledge of health, they've done everything,
Mhm.
but for some reason they're not losing those last 10 pounds, or they're not getting to where they're trying to get, or for whatever reason, or they can't stick with it, which is the
Mm.
number one reason for most people not being able
Purpose.
to stick to diets
Yeah.
is they can't make it a lifestyle, right? And that's
Yeah.
because most diets are unrealistic to maintain. It's almost
Yeah.
impossible to cut this thing cold turkey that you've been doing for 35 years and all of a sudden you're just going to not do it anymore and expect for you to stay that way for more than
Yeah.
21 days, right?
Yes.
And so what happens is I like to say I specialize in habit change. So in
Ooh.
order to change the habit, you have to figure out what's the root of it. What's the root and what's causing you to feel this way? What's your relationship with
Yeah.
food? What are your thoughts around your own health? What do you see yourself
Mm.
as a healthy person? What does that look like to you? So we
Yeah.
uncover what I call the why beneath the why, right? And we try to, because sometimes you're saying this is what the problem is, and then I ask you
Yeah.
a series of questions, and that's literally what a coach does. I'm not here to
Mhm.
give you answers or to tell you what to do. I'm here to ask the right questions so that you can figure it out for yourself, because like I always say, all the answers that you have are within. Sometimes you just need guidance to get to those answers. So really, as a
Yeah.
coach, I just ask those questions and kind of give you like little markers to get you to the answer that you already know, but you just need to
Yeah.
uncover for yourself.
I love
Because
that.
I don't like this idea, and I think a lot of people in the health world and in the self-help world tend to make people do the same thing that they tell you that they're trying to take you away from, and they make you so
What's that?
dependent on them, and they create programs for you that are really not sustainable without them. I'm anti that.
Mm.
I want to
Ooh,
give you tools that if you come to me for 12 weeks and you never come to me again, your
you
life is
good.
still as amazing. Yeah, I want to empower
Yeah.
people as opposed to like making you feel like if
Enable?
you don't have me, yes, yeah, perfect, exactly. And so the program, I take you through this program. We do different exercises, we have different conversations. I ask you different levels of questions as we go on. And
Mhm.
through that, we figure out what the real reason is as to why you're in the space that you're in and how we
Mhm.
can get to the solution of that. And it all is around habit change and rewiring your brain and understanding how your brain works so you know how to even trick your brain. Like, for instance, visualization is something that we use in my sessions. And say someone is having a hard time going to the gym, for instance, which is not unusual. What we do is we sit and we will visualize them. I'll say, hey, sit down, put on your gym clothes, all in your mind, right? Put on your gym clothes, put on your shoes, get up,
Mhm.
walk out of the door, get in your
Okay.
car, all in your mind. Visualize yourself driving to the gym, getting out of the
Okay.
car, going into the gym. Imagine the smell of the gym. Who's at the gym? Imagine the people at the gym. Imagine the machines at the gym, right? And you create
Mhm.
this because what you create, so I then say, start to feel like you're lifting a weight. What does that feel like? How heavy is the weight, right?
Yes.
How heavy is it? Is it heavy? Is it
Yes.
lightweight? Right? And you
Ooh.
start to imagine it. And what visualization does, it's so powerful. And we don't even realize that we do it
Mhm.
unconsciously. So I'm helping you to do it on purpose because you do it anyways.
Yeah. Consciously.
When
Yeah.
right, but when you can do it and hone in on it, what happens is your body starts to respond emotionally. And whenever
Yes.
you respond like that, then your body now has no choice but to make you do it and has no
To
choice
fall
but
in
to bring it
line.
to fall in line because your brain and your emotions already was like, hey, this is what we're doing, because your brain is going to
Mm.
resist. You have a part of your brain that wants you to do better, and then a part of your brain that's like, nah, we good right here.
We're good, sis.
This
I'm
is safe.
good, love.
I like it over
This
here,
feels
right?
comfortable. Like,
Yes.
why are you trying to make me uncomfortable? What's
So
wrong
you
with you?
yeah, so you have to trick your brain into doing what you want it to do until you get it to where you want it to be. It's a rewiring,
Yeah.
right, of the
Yeah.
brain. And that's how
It
and
really
then
is.
it leads to overall habit change because it's not me saying, don't
Mm.
eat this, don't eat that. I'm more of a, let's incorporate and swap this for that, right? So instead
Mhm.
of eating cane sugar, and this is something that you should do, instead of eating cane sugar, no matter how organic it is, you should swap that for coconut palm sugar or date
Or
sugar
dates.
or agave
Apple sugar.
or honey or anything except cane, because even though cane is natural and it does come from nature, there are also things in nature that are poisonous. Not just man-made things are poisonous. And for whatever reason, cane sugar is inflammatory to the human body, no matter how organic it
Mm.
is. So it is something you should avoid at all costs. Brown cane sugar, white cane sugar, it's not good for us, right?
All the canes.
So instead of me saying, hey, don't eat sugar, your brain's like, but I like sugar. I'm addicted to sugar. I want to keep eating
Give me
sugar
more.
as much as I possibly can. I'm like, well, as opposed to putting it into defense mode, I'm like, no, eat sugar, but eat coconut sugar. And then the brain's like, okay, so I can still have sugar. And it doesn't
Kind of
feel
like
like,
with the mangoes, like with the mango slices, because I'm a fiend when it comes to sweet stuff. And you were
right.
just like, I went to your house when it was living in a high rise, and God, I love those views.
Yeah, that was
Um,
nice.
as I loved the views, but you had some dried mango slices, and you were like, "Here, this
Mhm.
is what I use instead of defaulting to cupcakes, which is I love a good cupcake, y'all." Instead of eating a cupcake, you were like, "I eat this instead." That literally to this day is now my go-to because my mind is like, "Oh
Awesome.
yes,
I didn't know
sis, you
that.
still." Yes, girl, you have inspired so much. You're the reason why I wear makeup. Like, you and Courtney both got me into dressing, and then you took over from where Courtney started me, and then you took over because you and I are a lot more I want to say not aggressive. I'll say more we push the bounds. We push
Maybe a
limits.
little more edgy, especially with
That's the
fashion.
word. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a little more edgy. Like, oh, this is
Mhm.
weird. Yes, that's the one I want. The weird one. The one that's not what anybody else would wear.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely true. I agree with that. Oh, that's
absolutely.
good. Yeah, no, the dry mangoes is definitely a trick. So yeah, it's
Ah,
I think
excellent.
substitution and swapping and replacing, and as opposed to taking something away where you feel a void, I would
Mhm.
rather replace it with something that is enjoyable. So I find one of my clients had just an example. I had a client that just couldn't lose the last 10. She had a couple kids, couldn't lose
Mhm.
her last 10 pounds to save her life. Like she'd been trying for about
Ah,
5 years. She just could not lose that weight. And she's like, I've tried this. I was running every day. I was doing all this. And we after we kind of uncovered and asked the right questions, we
mhm.
discovered that stress was a really big factor in her life based on her
Mm,
occupation,
yeah.
based on her lifestyle, based on her family and her surroundings. She was
Mm,
in a very stressful kind of an environment. And the
mm.
thing about stress is that stress is something that is chronic and not acute. So it's like a chronic illness where it's just kind of like like a current in your life. Like if you think about like the ocean where there's like a current and it's just
Mhm.
underlying and it's just going wherever you go and it doesn't feel that intense, but it's there.
But it is.
But many of us, especially Americans, or anyone in like a capitalistic society, think stress is normal, right? Because we're just so used to stress. And we're just like, oh, this is just life. This
Yeah, that's how it's
hustle and
supposed to be.
bustle and go, 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 go is just
Mhm.
how it's supposed to be. It's very damaging to
It
our
is.
bodies. When you are stressed out, your body releases a hormone called cortisol. And
Mhm.
cortisol is useful in a sense if you were going to maybe run from a tiger, right? So, so your body is still biologically how it was ancestors ago, right? Years ago,
Yeah.
hundreds of years ago, your body still understands fight or flight as something very basic, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
when you are stressed out from an email from a boss, for instance, right?
Mhm.
And your blood starts to rush and you get hot and
Yep.
you can't think properly, and all the blood rushes to your arms and your legs and away from your brain, one, your body
Mhm.
thinks you're about to run from a tiger. Because that's what your body understands as stress. You're like, it's like, oh,
Right.
snap, danger, something's happening to me right now. And it's just an
Yeah.
email, but your body still goes into fight or flight, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
there's more than fight or flight, but I'm just saying, if you want to just keep it simple,
Yeah.
it goes into fight or flight. And
Mhm.
your arms and your legs are what's going to help you run from said tiger. So the blood leaves your brain, right? Goes to your
Oh.
arms and your legs. and you can't think straight. And that's why fear is also so dangerous. But anyways, so this is what stress does to the body, and it releases cortisol, and they haven't discovered why, but for whatever reason, cortisol makes your body store fat around your stomach.
That's probably what I have then. Because
I always talk to you about your stress, Alicia. I talk to you about stress every time we talk. So anyways, we realized that stress was such a factor for her. And we also changed up some of her diet. We, of course, I'm like anti-sugar, but not removing sugar, replacing sugar with better options of sweets.
Yeah.
We switched her to a more organic eating, just like replacing her fruits and vegetables with organic fruits and vegetables, because the pesticides and things like that are just not good for you. That's all organic means, just not sprayed with pesticides and stuff. So I just encouraged her to eat more organic. We started finding ways to help her with her breathing, to help her release stress from her body. Stress is unavoidable, but there are ways to manage it. And long story short, just working together for the full 12 weeks, I didn't give her a meal plan. I did not give her a workout plan that she needed to follow every day. I just asked her to move her body as much as she could, as often as she could. If it's for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes, when you kind of feel like you have to work out, it can make the body be like, wait, what? No. Right. You don't want resistance. You want it to acquiesce to what you want it to do. So you do that by making it. So you do that by making whatever you're asking to do still feel familiar, but it is different. So I don't ask you to work out, I ask you to move your body. That could be a walk, that could be a stretch, that could be yoga, that could be whatever you want it to be to start, right? So we did that. I gave her the breathing techniques and we just worked together. We met for an hour once a week. And after the 12 weeks, she lost 15 pounds.
What?
Yeah. And she was
like, I need to sign up again.
She
What's
lost
the website
15
again?
pounds, and she was like, I don't understand. She's like, every session I would wait for you to like give me a meal plan or give me this thing or that thing. And she was like, I just don't understand like what happened. And really it just came down to having her manage, because you can't remove all your stresses, right? You just can't. But having her manage her stress better, putting herself first, and really prioritizing her self-care was such a big part for her being a mother of two, a wife. She needed to prioritize her self-care. We just worked together in a way that we went a little bit deeper. So she anchored her desire to take her health back in something that was bigger than herself. And it was bigger than what she looked like. It was bigger than fitting in, looking at, like it was just bigger than that. It was like, no, I want to be alive and around for my children to grow old. I want to see my grandchildren. And she wasn't sick, but sometimes we just think like we're young, we have all this time. But it's like, well, look at your family members that are older than you. How are they living? Right? How do you avoid that? You have to take the reins now, no matter how old you are, whether you're 19 or 29 or 39 or 59, right? I hate AirPods. I just want to throw that out there. They're really annoying. I hate them. I don't know if my ears are just like too small or too big or too something, but I hate them.
And they always fall out, right?
They always fall out. But
that was in response, guys, for those who are listening on the podcast, that was in response to the fact that they keep falling out. Like they keep falling out.
They don't like my ears and my ears don't like them. We just don't have a good relationship.
I told you, mine fell from the airport. It fell into the sewer. So I only have one because it fell into the sewer.
Like they're too expensive to just lose all the time. Anyways.
And they always fall out. Apple, we're going to have to talk about this thing because this is ridiculous.
Take it.
But no,
it was just finding, again, the why beneath the why and figuring out what's something deeper you can anchor your own success, your own drive to be better, your own growth and change and journey. What can you anchor that in that will really make you go for it? I always like to say that everything changes, but not everything grows.
That is my favorite quote of yours. Believe it or not,
really,
that's my favorite one.
Everything changes, but not everything grows. Just because
the goal is
don't mean it's growing.
Yes. Yeah. What doesn't grow dies. Like when people say, "Oh my God, I don't want them to grow up." I'm like, so you want them to die? Like
that's what that means.
Sense. Yeah. If they don't grow up, they die. Stop saying that stupid shit. Oh,
Yeah.
he's just getting so grown. He's growing up so much. Yes, man, that's what you want. I
Yeah,
don't understand.
you want to grow. Growth is
You
so
want.
important. And sometimes,
It's
we don't know what it looks like. We're not raised a lot of times around trees that bear fruit. And so we don't know that
mm,
it's possible for us to do that. And many of us, especially in the Black community, or just I think communities of color, tend to not have shining examples of what this life really has to offer. I didn't grow up seeing my
mhm,
parents exercise or work out.
ever.
I didn't grow up seeing anybody meditate or breathe. No one told me to breathe when I was frustrated and dealing with anxiety at 15.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily have the resources and the tools to live life at a higher vibration. We don't know how to really manage ourselves. We don't really understand that the power, we don't understand the power that we have to really create the
Mhm.
life that we want. We just kind of
Yeah,
feel like life is happening to us, not for us.
that
And
part.
I was tired of that. I've always wanted more. I always felt like I want to be happy. Like it
Yeah,
just seems so simple, but it's like I want to
yeah,
be happy. I want a great life. I want an extraordinary life. I don't
yeah,
know why, we watch TV and it seems so far-fetched. It's like, but if they can do it, why can't I have that? Or why can't I do that?
that part,
And it's
that part.
so, and I think the best part about it is, especially with working with people, and once they
Mhm.
start to realize that, I heard someone say, like, the universe always says yes. And
Mm,
once they realized, and once, like, say we would have a conversation, right? Like, say I'd have a session with someone and we were
mhm,
talking about um trauma. Just say
yeah,
we were talking about trauma for whatever reason. I don't specialize in trauma, but for it's come up, right? Where someone will
yeah.
say, "Hey, I have this relationship with food because my mom would sit next to me with a belt so I would eat."
Oh,
Trauma, okay? So
whole trauma.
so say we would talk about that, and then they would say, like, randomly, they would, like, walk past a book about it, or like the information about it would just start to come to them because it
Mhm.
was obvious that they had a desire to dig deeper into that.
Yeah.
So it's really fascinating when you tap into that, how the universe, who I don't uh, interchange with God. I believe they're two different things. But I
Mhm.
think the universe kind of operates like nature does. Like there's rules and laws and things that have to go into
Yeah,
place. So I
agreed.
know through my own journey, and even just seeing clients accept that and realize how powerful they are, and how
Mm,
we all are equipped with a connection to a higher being that a lot of times we're just disconnected from,
yeah.
and it prevents us from really feeling like we have the, I don't want to say just power, but we don't realize that we have access
Ah, that's
to,
the biggest thing, access.
yeah, realizing that you have
Mm,
access, like you can do it. Like you're okay. Like you're
yeah,
like you are that person. You are that
yes.
amazing person. You do have the
Yeah.
knowledge. You can do this thing. But I think we're often taught to look for answers outside of ourselves and validation outside of ourselves, that we
Mhm.
lose that connection. And then it gets disconnected, and then it's like a bad signal, right? Like when you,
Mhm.
it's like me and you were talking, and say we're on a walkie-talkie, and then you go like way down the street. It's like, okay, the range
Yeah, it
the range
ain't,
is
this
going
ain't what it is. Yeah,
the
I think
range is messed up.
that too for me is like when we were talking earlier about, oh, a woman being chosen or feeling like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
supposed to, what my therapist at the time, what she said, and it was so powerful for me because it helped me to heal for real, for real. She was like, why do you feel like you have to be chosen? And I was like, because that's what I've been taught my whole life. I have to be
All of us.
chosen. And
All
he
of us
didn't
been
choose
taught
me.
that.
So now I'm pissed. And she
Yeah.
was just like, but do the biggest thing she was just saying, she's like, but do you choose you? Do you
Ooh,
choose you?
hello. That
And then
part.
she's like, and then too, it turns around, she was like, you have to choose him because yes, it's a man who usually, now women are doing some different shit, some different stuff. And we're gonna talk about that later too. But now women are doing some different things. But yes, a man can ask you to be with you or to marry you, but you have the option to choose and to say
You
yes
do.
or no. And
Yeah,
I
and
think
it doesn't
that's
have
the
to be
biggest piece.
default. Yeah, you know who,
Yes.
Gabrielle Union, in her book, We're Gonna Need
We're
More
gonna need
Wine, I
more
believe it's
wine.
called.
Yeah.
Yeah, she talks about that when it came to Dwayne Wade, and having that same kind of perception of feeling like you had to be chosen. And she said that
Yeah.
she chose, that she made that decision, that she didn't
Yeah.
want to just be like plucked up like a delicate flower. Like many of us are not like
Like a
that.
dandelion.
Yeah, like that's not the vibe, you know? So
Mm-mm.
I love that you've come into to just all of us, me too, like always feeling like, oh, he needs to like me. And how many times do we as women like change how we are and act like we're this
Listen,
girl so that we don't scare them off too early? And it's just like, no, I want you to
man,
scare, because if you scare easy, you're not for me anyway. So
you not for me.
we might as well just save my time and yours, because it's
That
very
part.
valuable.
Huh.
And I
Huh.
love that. Like even when you said about Disney just kind of showing that it was okay for a young girl to trust herself.
Yeah,
That's really like
after she
my
made a
mission.
mistake. And
Yeah,
she made a
that's
colossal
powerful.
mistake. Like
Yeah.
literally the whole world changed because of the mistake she made.
Yeah,
And
but
she
think about that though, like
it was
how
beautiful.
we don't feel like if we make a mistake, how we lose that trust in ourselves. Like that
Mhm. Yeah.
one big mistake and you're like, oh God, I don't know what to do ever again.
Yes.
It's
It
like,
was
what?
it was so good. Like we
Yeah,
legit, my daughter and I, we've seen it twice. And afterwards, we've talked about, hey, this is how you regain trust in yourself. I
yeah,
talked to her about my mistakes. I'm like, if you're looking for a perfect mama, you're gonna be mad as hell. And yes, this is how I talk to my 11-year-old daughter. Judge a mama. I don't give two shits if you like it, don't like it. We good over here for the most part. But no, I was just like, I'm gonna fuck up a few more times before you're of legal age. I was like,
yeah,
and I need you to understand that I'm not going to always make the right decision, but I'm going to always do my best to make the decision that not only thinks of myself, but that also thinks and encompasses your needs too. But I do need you to understand it's not going to be perfect. And so
yeah,
when you get pissed off at me because you feel I made a choice that you didn't like, I want you to always understand and think about the fact that I'm doing the best I can with the utilities, tools, and skills that I have right now. That may
that
change
part.
later, but right now, this is all we got. Let's hope and
So
pray for the best.
that's just what it is, right? And if I think if most of us learn to give our parents that kind of grace, we would heal from so much. But that's another conversation. but
Listen, one
but
that we are definitely going to tap into
yeah, because
because
that's a tough one. Because woo, the
whew,
parents jack us up. They do us real. They do a real number on most of us. So we're definitely going to
yes.
talk about that. But no, I felt like, just to kind of in closing, I felt like my overall purpose and one of my missions, because I don't like to
Yeah.
box myself in, but it was just to help people reconnect back to themselves, but ultimately their highest self, ultimately a
Yeah.
higher power, and helping them take back their health, and not just physically, but I believe that from what I've been doing so far, the work I've done so far, it typically will trickle over into their overall lives, right?
Absolutely.
And into their
Absolutely.
relationships, and into, because the relationship you have with yourself is the relationship you have with other people is a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself, no matter
So
how you want
true.
to slice it. I know it's hard to swallow that sometimes because we have shitty relationships, but a lot of times it's because of the way you treat yourself. And
Absolutely.
helping people, or just guiding them to any answer that can improve the quality of their lives, is the most fulfilling thing on the planet. I
Absolutely.
had a client text me and tell me that she has her friend's kids eating organic. And she was like,
Huh.
we were so afraid as moms of changing their food and feel like they wouldn't like this juice or this thing. And, you encouraged me to just try it. And it's funny how it has a trickle effect, a domino effect.
Mhm.
And she was just like, someone came
Yes.
over to my house and they saw what I was giving my kids, and they started doing that with their kids. And so it was
Yeah.
just like so heartwarming to me to know that someone that I don't even know, I'd never
Mhm.
met, is being impacted by something that I'm doing. Like that is
Love
just
it.
the most rewarding thing on the planet. So yeah, so that's what I
Love it.
do. And I now do this podcast with Alicia.
Yes, and no matter how many technical difficulties we have, we
We're gonna figure
come
it out.
through. We gonna
We
figure it
come
out.
through. Yeah. And and you want to know something? When you really decide what your purpose is, everything that you start to do aligns with your purpose. Like this podcast aligns with my purpose,
Absolutely.
my work
Mine
aligns
too,
with my
for sure.
purpose, and it just makes my life that much more um I don't know. It's not just happiness, but I feel like a
More
sense of
aligned.
joy. Yeah, and you feel like this
Yeah.
deep joy that no matter what happens,
Mhm.
because happiness is a result of what happens.
Happenings.
Joy, right? Joy is what's happening is how you feel regardless of what's happening around you. And that's what you're really trying to
Yeah,
get to, is that
absolutely.
unspeakable joy that, hey, this is going
Oh,
wrong, that's going wrong. But my
mhm.
perspective on it is so attuned that I understand it no matter
Yeah,
what, that I know it's happening for me. As bad as it
absolutely.
may be, it's harder sometimes than others, but I have
Mhm.
always been on a quest to find joy, deep
Yeah.
down in my soul.
Yes,
And,
I believe in that too.
like,
I always say I
yeah,
wanna anchor myself in joy. I wanna be anchored in joy so that
yeah, it's
even though the
tough.
winds are coming and everything, girl, the hardest thing of life is
Mhm.
to,
I
like, to
haven't figured it
root.
out yet. I haven't figured it
I'm
out.
still working, okay? I'm
Yeah,
still
yeah.
working on it, but that's the goal, to root and anchor ourselves in joy. But listen, this
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what it's all about. And that's what I hope to help myself do
yeah,
and help other people do in my work, just
yeah,
constantly reminding myself that I too am always a work in progress. And for anyone out there that does anything, just because for me, I just didn't feel qualified. And I think
mm,
a lot of us stop ourselves from doing things because we feel like we're not perfect. We're never
yeah,
striving for perfection. We're just striving for progress. And just because
right.
you still have a lot of work to do doesn't mean that you can't help someone that's in another stage that you've already been to. So you have
Mhm.
perfected that part, right? In a
Yep,
sense. You didn't perfect the
absolutely.
whole thing, but that part of the journey, maybe you did perfect that. You passed that lesson.
Yeah,
So now you can
yeah,
teach that lesson because you passed it, as opposed to feeling like you
exactly.
need to know the whole book in order to help somebody. You don't,
That
you know?
part,
And I
that
learned
part.
that the hard way, and limiting myself and having a limiting mentality of feeling like
Mhm.
I'm not qualified because I'm not A, B, C, D, whatever, and I don't have this, and that. When I've been so instrumental in literally changing someone's life or people's
Yes,
lives based on what I do know and using that. So I just want to encourage anyone to go for it and not feel like you're not worthy of stepping into who you really are. That's a big one.
absolutely, absolutely. And this whole conversation just about magnifying and honestly stepping in, tapping in, all of it. Listen, y'all gonna need to listen to this one twice. Like, so just prepare yourself, do it while you cleaning, um, whatever you need to do. But this one was magical. I am so, so grateful that we got a chance to tap more into Dani, what you do and how you do as a reformed, no longer mean girl, but now a certified health and life coach. Gosh, I really, really love talking with you. Just to hear you speak about what you do and the changes that you've made are so, so inspiring. It
Thank
inspires me.
you.
It really does. It helps me to know and understand that I can do more and there is always better that I can strive
Yeah.
towards. So thank
Yeah.
you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're
Thank you.
welcome. This was great. I'm
Yes.
happy to kind of show a little bit more of that. And, so, and I think it kind of helps people understand why we're doing this podcast and who we are. And
Yeah,
they can kind of know a little bit more of our heart and what our intentions are. So I love it. Thank you.
absolutely. Absolutely. So we will see you guys next time on Triggered AF, the podcast.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Triggered AF. Remember, don't be consumed by your triggers. Confront it and then work to release it. Whether you leave us more triggered than you came or you're feeling like you've been open to a new perspective, our hope is that you've grown. Make sure to share this episode with a friend who's trigger happy and tag us while you're listening. We can't wait to hear from you. Until next week, pull it together, girl.